to the Made for More podcast. You're joining us in our second series titled Walk With, where we explore different issues of mental health that people could be going through and how we can walk with them well. Although we get mental health professionals in this season, none of them are doctors, so please, if you need help or if anything we discuss in the podcast triggers you, pause the podcast and call your GP. Hope you enjoy.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week on our Made for More podcast. And I welcome my friend Beck on.
Hello.
We are so delighted to have you here with us.
Thank you so much.
Today is a story of Beck's journey, and I'm not going to say anything of what it is or what it's about, but we're just delighted to have you here. This series, we've just done one on Let's Talk, where we had a lot of different people on sharing about their mental ill health or their journeys which led them to be in positions of struggle. And actually, we wanted to come back this time. We had a lot of questions about, well, how do I walk with someone who is struggling? We had a lot of parents, teachers, even just friends of people who are struggling. And we thought this series would be a really good one to come on. But with what you do is very niche. And actually, we had a lot of parents ask questions about what you do. Yeah. So having Beck is amazing. Very passionate about what you do. Yeah. An incredible human being. So I'm excited for our conversation today. So welcome.
Sarah, thank you so much. Great intro. Thank you. So kind.
Do you want, we're both wearing stripes.
I know.
We've also got similar necklaces on.
Very similar. Right. This is,
We're pretty much
it's
twins.
Really planned. Yeah.
We're pretty much, this was not pre-planned with the stripes either. Could be sore in the eyes, but who knows? So Beck, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell our viewers, listeners, where you're listening to this podcast, who you are, what you do, as whatever you want to say.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Rebecca McCullough, or Beck, as a lot of my friends call me. And I am the founder of Eden, or Eden Consultancy, which is a consultancy-based practice in which I think the easiest way to describe it is that we support and equip those who are working on the front line with either like working with or raising children who don't quite fit into societal margins and margins that society is really put on. So for example, neurodiversity. So we work a lot at supporting parents and teachers and different companies who are helping to support individuals on the autism spectrum. That's a huge part of what we do. But also children with other neurodiversity needs like ADHD and social, emotional and behavioural needs as well. So we kind of cover all of that. But our main thing is about equipping those who are helping or raising. So like parents as well are like a massive part of what we do.
Wow. And following your Eden journey, it has been, it just seems to have like blown up. Like, you know, I felt like it was just something you started kind of doing as like nearly like a one-off thing. And then it's just really exploded. And now you are doing that full time and you're super busy.
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. It's been a very fast journey, which I think what's shown me is the need.
Absolutely.
Like there's such a massive need. If there was enough support in place, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. Like that's what I keep saying to people when they're like, oh, but there's good enough. And I'm like, well, clearly not. If I've been able to do this so quickly and it get to such a size so quickly as well. So yeah.
But also even in that language, like, oh, there's good enough, as if what's out there will do.
It'll do.
And I know your heart, that's not ever your heart. No. Actually, like these kids, the people walking along with these kids, like they deserve better.
Absolutely.
And they deserve the best good enough. Like what even is that?
For sure. And a huge part of our language at Eden is about flourish. So we talk about equipping people to restore to what it should be. Like it's not that we're trying to change things. It should be like this. And then so kids can flourish. It's not that they can make do or get by. Like these kids deserve the best. And it's up to us as the adults in their lives to make sure we're fully equipped to help support their needs, like whatever that looks like.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So looking at this, was this just an idea you woke up with one morning? Take us on Beck's journey of Eden. Take us on it.
Yeah, so I guess the easiest place to start, like I could track way back into my life when things were being kind of like sprinkled in of like ideas, but originally, I lived and worked in England for quite a while, and I was a special needs teacher. Yep. So I worked primarily in a school for autistic children, and it was a school that was like an all-through school. So we had like 3-year-olds right up to 19-year-olds. And the way that special needs teaching works, you know, you train in one area and you end up in the other. Like it's just the way it works. Yep. So I started doing like Key Stage 1, 2, and I ended up being a Key Stage 4 teacher. So I was with like the 16 to 18-year-old kids, and it was the hardest time of my life with them because there was like so many years of trauma we were unpicking. A lot of them had come from mainstream schools that it hadn't worked. And I remember sitting thinking, like, although how hard it was, I fell in love with those kids. Like, although the most challenging for me, they were the ones who really steered my direction and what I did, because I just was like, that's enough. Like, this is like, that was 14 of them. I was like, there will be thousands of you out there that are not coping in mainstream environments because what the adults are doing isn't good enough. And not like slating adults, but it's as in like wider, like obviously training and support. Like we were able to really help and support these group of individuals, these young adults we had. And like, I can absolutely say like made a massive impact in their life, but because we had the skills to do it and to understand how to talk about really, really dark stuff and how to support that whilst you're trying to get them some qualifications and like balancing all of that, but understanding that if they're not feeling safe, they're never going to be able to learn. And that was a huge part for a lot of them. So I told them when I was leaving, because I made the decision then to leave teaching, not because I hated it, but because I was like, there's more that needs to be done. So I decided to do a master's, and I remember telling them, and they were like, "Gotta," they were like, "No, don't." But I was like, "You guys are the reason I'm doing this in the best way, because you showed me through your hard work, like lives can be changed. Like this can make a difference. And think how many more there are of children who need help like you guys did." So the plan all along was to come back for a year to do my master's in psychological sciences in Belfast, because, you know, cheaper to come back home.
Yep.
So came back home, and then it was just like, everyone had said to me, you know, oh, the education system, Northern Ireland, like people who were in it, they're like really behind, you know, and I was like, right, everyone's being very dramatic, you know, and I came back and I was like, okay, there's a lot that needs to be done.
There's a lot of truth maybe in that.
Yeah. And I think during my year when I was doing my master's, I kind of started to realize that like my absolute desire in all of this was to help the darkest of situations, like the worst. I was like, throw me into the worst situations because I want to help them.
And sorry, what would that look like? So the worst situations, like what sort of situations are you talking about? So what kind of kids are you working with? I guess
if we're looking at those on the spectrum, it's kids who've been missed out with like diagnosis. So there's then, I guess, behavior and patterns that develop that are really unhealthy. So it spirals. Mainstream school can't cope with it. There's no spaces in other schools, and they just kind of get lost in the system. I guess in a darker sense of kids I have also worked with, that can also look like then it escalating to ending up in the care system, ending up through a lot of abuse and having to journey through a lot of abuse and things like that. So, you know, a lot of the stuff I do isn't at times very cheery, but it can be. Like, it can be dark, but there's so much light that can be poured into it. So I think when I realized there was a lot of that in Northern Ireland, because we've got such a small, dense population, I was like, okay, I need to do something about this. And honestly, like, I remember clear as day sitting in my dad's study at home on his floor saying, do you ever think this would work? Like, if I did training, because I'd done delivered training in England quite a lot, and I was like, what if I like just helped people understand these kids a bit better? Like, no one seems to know about their brain and the fact that they're not safe when they're like at that part, they're not accessing their prefrontal cortex. What if we teach people that? Dad was like, well, you could try.
Yeah.
And genuinely, that's how it started, was me emailing out to various people being like, here's what I can do. Like just
Like,
really,
would you like this type of training?
literally.
Like, this is the qualifications that I have in my toolbox. This is
Absolutely.
This is some of the things that I'm equipped to teach.
Yeah.
Would you benefit from this training?
Yeah.
And evidently, people have jumped on that.
Yeah, and I think Northern Ireland's the kind of place that it's obviously quite a good place to start that kind of thing because it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
So, 30 people attend your first training, but then they go and tell everyone and their family's got loads of people in it. And then you've got a phone call from their auntie's cousin and they're like, oh, I'm the principal of here, or I run this and we want to get you in.
Northern Ireland's great for that.
So good for that. So, and I guess honestly, that bit in between is a whirlwind. And yet I'm always conscious of not, I guess, underselling the amount of hard work that went into it too. My granddad is always like saying that to me. If, he's like, I know, it is a need and all this, but he's like, Rebecca, you worked so hard to get it. And I did. I think I something in my soul was set on fire. And I was like, right. And I tirelessly, whilst finishing my master's, set this up to what we are today. So yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's
I just
crazy.
love it. Like, and it's just so funny that it's obviously not a coincidence, but it's like the pieces of your journey have just been being like moved, and your heart has been moved, and things within you have been shaped and formed until this thing that is now birthed out of you, which is Eden Consultancy. And I just absolutely love that. And it's just fascinating to me that there's so much need, and actually you just threw that out there, like with your dad, like, do you think this would actually work? And it's like, well, let's just try it. Let's just try and see. So we have had a lot of parents contact us whose kids are, ADHD, autism, spectrum, all of that type of thing. So what advice would you give to them? Obviously, we'll be putting up your details for people to be able to contact you and to hopefully contact Eden. But what advice would you give? So this is walk with. What sort of things, even just base level stuff for walking with a child who is struggling with this?
So, I mean, there's a plethora. And I think what I try and say and encourage parents, we try, I'm trying to not say this as a double negative. We try and focus on the positives within it. That's what I'm trying to say. So, yes, there are so many challenges that come in with raising an individual on the spectrum, but oh my gosh, are there stunning and like beautiful moments as well. So I think in terms of strategies and what that can look like, we say the more you know, the more you can help. So the more you understand about your child's need and where they are in the spectrum or what ADHD actually looks like, the more you can help. Because you understand them. I think also just taking time and realizing that it's really hard for parents too. It's very lonely. So we'd really encourage parents to connect in. There's amazing parent support groups in Northern Ireland of just hearing each other's journey and journeying alongside people who are going through similar things. And the thing that I love about, especially for those on the spectrum, there's so many simple things that can be done to make a real difference. So like a big thing we talk about is visuals a lot of the time of helping, but what we do is training around that of like, how do you understand? But I think in general, like take a step further than that of like, not even just parents, like we also like to use the language about wondering. And I think in society, if we start to do that, we start to be kinder. So a lot of the thing is people saying, oh, I didn't realize that they had something different about them, or using words that you're like, oh, that's not what we use. So, we talk about neurotypical and neurodiverse, not normal and different. So really encouraging that in your friendship groups, in your society, like you can do that as a 16-year-old in your class and be like, oh, no, it's just that they're neurodiverse, or using that language that's really positive. And so I think that, and just outside of all of us, just having a greater understanding that this exists. And it's a stunning thing. Yeah, for sure, these individuals think and can interact in a slightly different way, but we encourage people to use the language like, I wonder. So if something seems a little bit off or a bit different and you're like, oh, I feel uncomfortable, just having that language of like, I wonder if there's something different that I need to do to help this individual in this situation. Rather than being like, not get involved. So yeah, that's kind of our general.
I love that. And just from what I'm hearing from you, it's like your belief is that every individual can thrive.
For sure.
And I always think of that, like, that like quote, and it's like, if you judged a fish on its ability to climb a tree.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you would automatically think like, oh, that
100%.
fish is worthless,
Yeah.
you know, but actually placed in the right environment, given the right tools,
Yeah.
you see it completely differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're just giving power back to those children by equipping teachers, by equipping people around them, by equipping parents.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you're just giving them the voice again. You're giving them.
Yeah.
I just hear what you're doing as you're literally creating environments for people to thrive. Like
Yeah.
everyone is important.
Yeah.
Everyone is special, and everyone deserves an
Yeah.
environment where actually they are allowed to thrive and they are
Absolutely.
allowed to feel loved. And also, I feel like key of what you do is teach kids that they're known.
Yeah.
And I think
So important, Zara.
it's just what I hear from you. And we're out of time today, but we're going to put a load of stuff up from Eden
Great.
Consultancy
Yeah.
where people
Yeah.
can come in, see your
Have a
resources,
look.
see what you
Yeah.
do, and hopefully book in with you.
Yeah,
For
contact
anyone
us,
who
yeah.
is struggling, for any parents out there, if you're a parent of a child, I don't know how after listening to Beck you wouldn't want to engage with her and just hear some of her ideas, some of her tips, get some of the tools from her toolbox,
Yeah, of
because you just
course.
really hear her heart is to help other people.
I'm glad that comes across.
And I just love that. So thank
Yeah,
you so
brilliant.
much for coming on today.
No problem.
We really appreciate it, and we will see everybody next week.